If you want to follow along, I'm in Acts 2, verse 44 and 45. I'm reading the ESV. It says, "And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need." So you see, when I read this verse, there is one word that comes to my mind every single time. One word that I think perfectly summarizes the message this verse is trying to put across. It's not faithful or generous or anything cliche like that. The one word that I think perfectly summarizes these two verses is ridiculous. I think these verses are absolutely ridiculous, and it's ridiculous for a couple reasons. First, it's ridiculous because it's not saying that these early Christians were giving 10% of their income to the church. And it's not saying that when they had a really great harvest season, they gave above and beyond their usual tithe. No, it's saying that they gave everything that they had. Then they went back to their homes and sold their property so that they could give even more. That is truly ridiculous. But the really crazy part about this is that there's nowhere in the New Testament where it says that Peter and John and the other apostles were going around forcing people to give this way. So what are we led to assume? That they were doing this willfully? Yes. Maybe that they were even doing it joyfully? Yes again. Why would anybody give in such a ridiculous manner if they weren't being forced to? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They looked at God. You see, God didn't just give up what He could afford to lose. God gave up everything for us. And He didn't have to. God is complete and fulfilled in and of Himself. He doesn't need us, He doesn't need our worship, and He certainly doesn't need our money. So why would He give up so much if He didn't have to? Well, again, the answer is simple. It was because of love. You see, when we put it into the context of love, it begins to make a little bit more sense. I know that no matter what situation I get myself into, my mom would give anything and do anything to help me out of it. And I know my dad would do the same. It's because they love me. If you've ever been in love before, you know the feeling. You take your girlfriend out to a restaurant, a fancy restaurant that you know you can't afford, and you look at her and you say, "Get whatever you want, it's on me." Even though you know you only made $60 that week, and if she orders an appetizer, your whole budget is blown. Why do we do this? Because love invokes sacrifice.
Yes, that's good.
You see, I want you to understand what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that you have to sacrifice everything that you have to be a Christian. You don't have to give up all your possessions to follow Jesus. That's not what this is about. But what I am saying is that when you experience God's love for yourself, these ridiculous acts of sacrifice begin to make a little bit more sense. So you see now why I see this verse is so ridiculous. But understand that it's not about ridiculous sacrifice. It's about ridiculous love.
Come on.
God doesn't want you to go around looking for opportunities to sacrifice more. That's religious piety, and that's not what it's about. He wants you to go around looking for opportunities to love more. If you're trying, I want to challenge you all to live up to the standard that this early church set for us. And love each other the way that God loved us, which is ridiculously. Thank you.